stream wherever you are. All right.
Oh god, my eyes.
So getting started. So first of all, yeah, welcome to the class. Who am I? Your lordship. A little bit of real life stuff. I've been a filmmaker basically my whole damn life. My very first camera was a big shoulder mounted camcorder that recorded on VHS tape, and I fell in love with it and been doing film and stuff ever since. Um, Recently, even started getting into photography. I've been a video editor for a TV show for like 4 years. And then most recently, I won some free joysticks from CitizenCon for just taking photos of the actual event.
Nice.
So that kind of, stroked the all ego. And I think I know what I'm doing around here. So basically, though, like we all know, whoop, too soon. We all know like how beautiful this game is, and it all like only the beauty will come through if you can actually capture good screenshots. So that's what we're going to learn here today. I'm going to teach you some very basic like photography stuff that you might learn if you took like an intro to photography class or something like that. Very basic stuff. We're not going to get too insane, but these are going to be very important tools to help you with your own screenshots moving forward. Basically, with photography, there's all this stuff called like rules of composition. Basically, we've been doing art for long enough. We know what looks visually appealing to people, and it can be broken down into like certain sets of rules or like patterns. And so being able to translate that into the game, the advanced director's camera that they give us for Star Citizen is actually a very impressive tool that they let us do all this crazy shit with it. And because of that, we can take some pretty epic screenshots. So we're going to start with the rules going down because honestly, like your photo can be more than just the subject. You have a lot of stuff going on. First rule, arguably probably one of the most important, probably the rule I use all the time, the rule you're going to use all the time is this thing called rule of thirds. I can pretty much guarantee you if you pull out your cell phone right now, go to the camera, you'll find an option to actually enable this little overlay on your camera because this is a very important thing. When you view a picture, your eye is naturally going to scan certain points just to try to absorb as much info as it can. You're not going to scan it line by line like a computer or printer. You're going to look at these targeted points. So basically, if you draw this little grid on a photo, where the lines intersect are basically points of interest that your eyes are going to look. So if you use that to your advantage and you put your subject on one of those points or even on one of those lines, you basically know for a fact the human eye is going to go there. So put your subject there. So in this case, you got the eye of the bird right on that intersection, as well as if you look up and down, it's on that lower third, or sorry, that the third line going across. Even the beak is going across horizontally on that one. So that's like a great example of using not only the point, but also those lines of where to place your subject. Another similar one, and truth be told, I don't use this one all that much, but some more like advanced cameras also have this overlay setting on. It's called the golden ratio. I don't really know a whole lot about this. I know it is the Fibonacci sequence or the Fibonacci spiral, and it's just kind of another way that your eye will sort of scan a picture. And so by placing stuff along the line, you can again kind of predict where the human eye is going to go. So put something there for the person to find as they are looking through this picture. And then with the spiral, yeah, it gets tighter and tighter when it gets to one of the quadrants that it's in. And so basically, instead of just chopping up the picture into like 9 different blocks, like the rule of third does, this spiral actually, how do I it's like the golden spiral, it's the golden ratio. I don't really know, but like I said, it's kind of important. Another one that I use all the time is called leading line. There are very few straight lines found in nature. So when the human eye sees one, you pick up on it and you actually like scan it immediately. So for this one, obviously the subject is the car and it's found on this road. So basically, if you look at any point in the road, your eye's just going to want to travel down it and then it takes you to the subject, which is the car. You can use this for, I mean, all of our ships have lines all over the body. If you're like standing on top of the hull, you can use that to follow. Uh, New Babbage, you can use the tram lines. They are just long, straight lines. You can use that to kind of put your subject at the front or the end of it. Any sort of line your eye is going to lock onto and automatically travel with. So use that to your advantage. Lines don't also have to be straight too. They can be curved. So in a subject like this, spiral staircase, you're kind of just instantly going to start looking down to see if there's anything on the steps along the way down until you get to that pillar on the bottom. What I really want to do at some point is actually go through and replace these slides with pictures in game, so that way you can get actual examples. But for now, we gotta have to make do with this. Another one, which we can actually use a lot for spaceships, is basically diagonals. Somewhat the same principle as the rule of thirds, putting stuff in these like predetermined areas. However, because it is diagonal off to the side, you are given all this free space. So in this one in front of the bird, you basically kind of give the idea that flight can happen. Like at any moment, you can easily picture this bird is going to take off and fly forward because you've left that empty space in the direction it's looking. Whereas if you actually put this diagonal on the other side and the bird is immediately looking at the edge of the photo, it's going to feel cramped. There's no room for the bird to go. It kind of ruins what could have been a better shot when it's over here. So for our spaceships, you're taking off, you're flying into space, whatever like that. Leave that space in front so that way we can kind of visualize where the travel is going to go. Leave a open path for your ship. And so that's something that we can use. And actually, yeah, this is like the rule of thirds. This is one I use a lot for my own screenshot photography. Another one that we can do because we have, doors in all of our spaceships and stuff like that. It's called frame within a frame. And it's basically what it sounds. I mean, you got your picture frame, which is the actual picture, the square. This one, you got the door, you got the portal, you got some kind of opening that makes another cutout in the photo, and you can put your subject on it. And so it basically frame within a frame, fairly easy to do, but you can actually get a real cool effect with it. So, like I said, if you're in a Hercules and you're in the hallway, like you have a door open, you can easily put yourself in a frame or something like that. And it makes for an interesting little shot because you are narrowing the area where your subject could be. And so it's kind of visually appealing to the eye to kind of be guided ever so subtly of where it is I'm supposed to. This next one, figure to ground. What I was talking about with the Star Citizen advanced camera being so damn advanced, we have things that we can like blur our photos. I'm sure you guys have seen that. Do the depth of field, the bokeh. We'll get into that later. But basically, by controlling what is in focus and what is blurry, again, you are guiding the eye where it is you need to look. So this one, obviously, this woman, she's in focus, she's lit up, she's perfect. There's also this coffee cup, which is here, but because it is blurred out, you know that's not the subject, you know it's her. So basically, your figure is in focus, and then everything going to the ground is out of focus, getting progressively more and more out of focus. You know she is the subject of this photo. So that's figure to ground. Fill the frame. Again, if you make your subject basically fit the entire damn picture, there's nothing else that your subject could be. So you're painting the target very obvious. So for this one, you can, zoom all the way in your ship and leave very little background available. You can zoom into your character holding a weapon, whatever like that, and like that item is the subject because it fills the entire damn picture, nothing else around. So that would be this one. Fill the frame. Center dominant. Now we're getting a slightly a little bit more advanced stuff, but basically for this type of style, it works when you're filming people. You put whatever eye is closer to the camera, you put that in the center. So for this one, this woman is looking to the left. Her left eye is actually closer to us, her right. So you put that eye in the center of the photo, more or less. This one's a little bit off. But because of that, there's this weird effect where you can actually move your head around your screen right now if you wanted to. You can up, down, left, right. Because her dominant eye is center, it looks like she's following. And so you might see this effect on like painting stuff like that, as opposed to just a straight dead on stare, which is somewhat kind of unnerving. This one, by having her slightly offset, but that dominant eye is centered, it looks like she's following you. So this can possibly work with Star Citizen photos. I need to try. We might get more of that uncanny valley where the characters look just kind of too meh, but we'll try. And it's another kind of advanced film technique. Oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. Sir Michael Caine, I think, the guy that played the butler, yeah, Alfred in Batman. Well-known actor, very respected, blah blah blah. he can't talk enough about this technique where he always says wherever he's facing, the eye that's closest to him is the one that he focuses on in his actors, or he'll look with his eye closest into the camera. He absolutely loves this technique. So there's something to be said about it if you're trying to do some advanced photography skills. Another one is pattern repetition. So again, very obviously this woman is the subject because the background is just kind of so out there. In Star Citizen, you can use this if you're taking photos on, say, a forest and you just have repeating trees everywhere in the background. Or more likely, you're up in space in an asteroid belt and you have rocks just everywhere behind you and your ship. You very easily isolate your ship from the background or whatever the subject is from the background because the background is just sort of a repeating pattern thing. It's easy for you to just kind of not pay attention to it. That's also a convenient place to stick in like an Easter egg or something like that. You can hide something in that repeating pattern if you wanted to, if that was kind of the thing you were going for. All right, last one, symmetry, asymmetry. So again, looking at a photo that's perfectly, perfectly balanced left and right, that could be appealing. The other thing is you could also be balanced, but it could also be tilted off to the side like this plate. So yeah, plate whatever, but you got the utensils kind of even, the napkin top bottom is even this little decoration is even, but the whole damn thing is off to the side. But even though it's lopsided like that, it still looks appealing because it still has some order in this photo. So again, you can use that by if you're lining stuff up, either items or ships, whatever like that. You can find ways to use this stuff. And again, one of the more sort of obscure rules, but it is a rule that they teach. And yeah, sometimes you might be able to figure out a way to do something with it. And yeah, obviously there's like many more rules. This is like another thing I picked up. Thank God with Star Citizen, we don't have to worry about crazy stuff like shutter speed or aperture, all these like advanced camera settings. The game basically does it for you, which is really great. Not yet. Oh my God, no. Um, but even in this other one, you can see like they talk about rule of thirds, leading lines, that frame within a frame, symmetry, all this stuff. Like these are very common rules that you'll find a lot if you actually start to get into photography. And the great thing about this game is if you are already in photography, you can bring it in here with you to Star Citizen and use this stuff. So it's really kind of cool.
I would love to say I would love it if they had something like a handheld camera shutter speed, just so
Oh
to do
boy.
like some of those really cool like blurry effects when ships are flying by or slow it down.
Yeah,
So
we'll
that would
we'll
actually
see
have
someday, but
coordinate with that.
yeah.
Pretty sure.
Move
Sorry.
actually, well, yeah, let's take a quick little break right here. Anyone have any questions so far? Questions, comments, concerns?
Pretty sure you can mimic. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can mimic the um shutter speed with I forget what it's called, a reshade.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that might be something. Actually, we're briefly cover reshade later on. So yeah, we'll get there. Moonded, what did you got?
No, I was just saying soon TM about the camera writing game, and something that just came to my mind is maybe we can lower FPS. The lower FPS, the less frames you have, the more frames you have to more or less like put together and can get a kind of blurry thing.
Right. Actually, so quick little tangent right now, but I used to do like the video recording of this game and I used to have a lot of fun with it. But the problem is like my computer is built as a workstation, so it doesn't actually stream Star Citizen very well. I don't get really good frame rate. And there was one op we did. I don't know, some of you guys might have been there where we did escorting a caterpillar with a bunch of A2s and hammerheads. I had somebody else film that for me who had a better rig. And yeah, I got 60 FPS game footage and it was beautiful. I could do whatever. I could speed it up. I could slow it down. It looked great. And it completely ruined filming anything of my own for that because I've seen how good the footage can be visually and to work with that I just don't feel adequate that my computer could film anything like that. So I kind of fell out of that. And now I'm focusing more on the photography because that is something my computer can do. But yeah, frame rates and stuff like that are very important. And actually, the higher frame rate you can record, you can always slow it down, no problem, or chop it up. But trying to get smooth, high frame rate stuff, that's kind of difficult. That actually takes like a purpose built computer to play this game to get that kind of footage. Um, And then actually, as we found out in that op, it wasn't just a computer that could play the game, but they also had to be in Discord. They also had to be streaming so I could see. They also had to run OBS so they could record all this stuff. All that started taxing their computer, and it became a huge headache, which is also why I haven't done that again, like been the director and have someone else be the cinematographer. It's just the game is not optimized, just not there yet. So kind of just I'm making do with what I can. But
I've
yeah,
been
all these actual
testing
film
that.
stuff. What?
I've been testing that. I think I have the settings just right to actually keep up and do that now.
Sweet. So yeah, I
Cool.
mean, something to think about and just kind of working with what we got and what we have on our own, side. But yeah, I mean, this game has a lot of potential for basically pretty damn close to real life stuff.
And the next patch is going to make some of these screenshots you're going to be able to take even better with the new
Oh God,
lighting
what's
and the
happening?
clouds. Yeah,
Oh,
with the cloud
clouds.
tech and the lighting
Oh
coming in.
yeah, yeah. By the way,
Nice.
we need a new trailer still. Just saying. Bored.
So if your computer can barely run the game now, it's going to get worse. I'm warning you now.
Yay. All right, moving on. So rule of thirds, we're covering that again just because, like I said, it's such an important one. I can guarantee you guys are going to start using this one the most because it's so easy and yet so effective of a tool. So basically, just going to go into depth with it. You put this grid on you sort of imagine it on your monitor, and anywhere that intersects are points of interest that you should have your subject. But again, the lines themselves, you can also put stuff there, just like we saw with that bird example. But it's such an important rule. I just want to cover it again. You guys need to start using this one ASAP. It's easy enough. You can move your camera around, you can move your character around to fit one of these quadrants, and your stuff's gonna look so much better. Here's just one, example of that. Boring. I feel really bad. I have the name written down. I got to find it. But we had a member here in Nova submit a couple of photos in the media gallery, and he was asking for help. And so I helped him. I just taught him about the rule of thirds, and then I asked, "Hey, can I use your photos from class?" And he said, "Yeah." So I'll have to find his name if anyone really wants to know. But so this was one of the photos. The thing with Star Citizen, when you go into third person, it's always a very predictable, it's always the exact same spot. So you always see amateur photographers posting the exact same damn picture. It's over the shoulder, it's behind the ship, it never moves. It's fine, but it's so basic. Everyone who kind of looks at Star Citizen with a photographer's eye, you see the same pattern all the time. It gets very boring. So even just moving away slightly from that can increase your photo so much. So for this one, again, it's behind the ship. He did hold Z and he moved the free look camera around off to the side, but still, your ship's in the center of the picture. It's kind of boring, right? When you look at the photo up top, you have nothing going on up here. Definitely have nothing going on this side of the photo. So just by using the rule of thirds, you crop in on the bottom, bam. I know there's an overlay, but it looks a whole lot better because you got your ship, first of all, kind of sort of like the diagonal thing we were talking about. It's up in this corner, so it's in that point of interest, but also you've left all the room for travel, so it doesn't feel too cramped. Still got a building over here in this little quadrant, really cool. Um, just by cropping in on that exact same photo makes it a much more visually appealing picture because you've cut out all the junk that did not need to be there that was just taking up space on your photo. Another example that they did this hanger, same exact thing. In fact, we're even doing the exact same crop in. There's nothing really going on up here that requires any attention. Nothing here too. If anything, this is too busy. Like it's gonna draw your eye. You're gonna start looking around. Okay, what's there? What's there? What's there? Okay, nothing. So instead, just get rid of it. Crop in. Again, you can even get him on a third. You can get the ship right on one of the points of interest. Such an easy tool of just kind of cropping in, either doing this in Photoshop afterwards, like post production, like I kind of prefer, or you can do this in game by moving your camera around, getting in position. Just cut out any junk that doesn't need to be there and just keep your two subjects, one subject, however many subjects. Just keep that. Using the rule of thirds, so easy. You can improve your photos so much. This looks so much better than just big old basically empty hanger with all this extra junk that does not need to be there. And again, art is one of those things that's totally subjective. There's no definition for art. I know it when I see it, blah, blah, blah. So, depending on what it is you're trying to go for, you don't have to follow these rules. You can get your own photo. I'm just, disclaimer, I'm just telling you what's, the main stuff that they teach.
It's a guide.
Yes, exactly. The other important thing is realizing what it is you are taking photos on. I know most gaming computers are probably 16 by 9, and guess what? That's also what your smartphones are usually set for. That's what Instagram, that's what Twitter, Facebook like are all kind of more aimed for. Are photos like this. I play on a 32 by 9 screen, which I absolutely love my super ultra mega wide, and it gets some awesome looking photos. The problem is when I go to post those photos, I get a big ass bar on the top and the bottom because I was not thinking how my photos are going to look on the majority of like screen. So that's definitely something to bear in mind if you shoot on some crazy resolution, if you have multiple monitors, Killjoy, that you like to play the one game on ultra massive mega wide, it's going to look like shit when you upload those anywhere. So keep that in mind based on like what your aspect ratio is, what your aspect ratio. That's basically all this is. Keep that in mind, keep the end goal in mind, and try to like, come up with the best plan. So yeah, my 32 by 9 doesn't really look too well unless you kind of sort of like stack photos. You stack two of them and it'll take up your full screen or whatever like that. Like again, beautiful individual screenshots, I think. I took them. But depending on how you're looking at them, it can completely ruin it. If I post this on Reddit, somebody sees this little squint of a photo, they're just going to keep on scrolling by. So bear that in mind. If you have any sort of crazy resolution monitors that you play on, you might want to crop in afterwards, or just be aware of that when you're taking the photo. Zoom the hell out. That way you can, cut the photo down to a proper size, upload it. For the longest time, I forgot why I added this little slide in, and then I finally remembered, and I talked to Void about this. Watermarks. So goddamn important when people steal your own artwork to add watermark. Basically, you want to tag your work because, it's your screenshot, you took the time of it, it's your, I don't want to say property, but yeah, it's yours. So realize it's super easy for somebody to just copy, copy paste, whatever, design a watermark. You always want your watermark to be on the bottom left of a photo because depending on where you're uploading it, most things will automatically put some sort of either your page watermark or some logo, whatever, on the bottom right. So you don't want anything there because it's just going to get covered by stuff. So put your watermark bottom left. You also don't want anything that's going to steal focus from the photo too much. So you can actually, it's sort of hard to tell on this one. I also vary the transparency on my stuff depending on what it is. If it's a white background, I can actually have, 50% opacity on my thing. If it's a really dark photo, I actually crank that down to like 25 or 10 or something like that. You don't want a big bright ass watermark in the bottom of your screen, dark photo when you're trying to look for somewhere else. So don't have something that's going to steal focus, but you do want it clear enough that, if somebody copies your work, they, it's tagged, it's yours. They're going to know. What's hilarious is CIG just took one of my pictures and they put it in the newsletter and they actually cropped the photo down and got rid of my watermark. It's like, God damn it. So just be aware that can happen. But it's kind of one step further that you can, secure your own work. And so as artists, you don't want to be stealing other people's work. You don't want to take credit for anyone else, or at least you shouldn't be. But you also don't want anyone taking credit for your work. So again, just tag your stuff. Come up with some sort of watermark, your username, make it not totally, stand out-ish. But yeah, watermark bottom left. There's this guy named, I can never pronounce it right, Hashka. I don't know if anyone knows how to pronounce it. But he's been playing Star Citizen streamer for a long time. He was one of the ones that really pioneered the advanced camera system. He came up with this really handy guide. I can post it in briefings if anyone needs. But it's, this one was what, 2020, Alpha 310, has basically stayed the same. CIG has not messed with the advanced camera controls, which is really handy because I'm sort of locked into how I use it. But basically, he comes up with these graphs of like where to imagine the camera would be when you go over the shoulder. You have a box that the camera can only travel. If you've ever messed with the camera, actually, question: who here has not really messed with the third person camera? Fantastic. Everyone either has sleep or has some experience. Yeah, you got all these controls for it. basically F4 is your friend just to target all this stuff. You can go up, down, left, right. You can increase zoom, you can decrease blur, you can do basically all this crazy stuff, and it's really great. One of the really handy things is you can actually, if you get an angle, a zoom, and a blur you really like, you get your photo right, you can save it to a keybind. So that way, at the press of a button, you can zoom right back to where you were. And you can actually use this to stage multiple different shots and basically capture them one after the other. Right, and then all of this basically takes place using your numpad, your, home, up and down. We all should know. If anyone doesn't know this stuff, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just gonna keep on going. I'm not gonna post it. Okay.
Yeah, I would like just a screenshot of that if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, after the class, I will dump it in, the briefing channel. Remind me.
Okay.
So the one that I like, we don't need audio on this one. One thing I like to do is actually basically come up with a rapid zoom shot. So basically, I'm in my A2. I move my camera in front. So this one, they're all preset. I didn't show me actually setting it up. But basically, what you want to do, pick a spot way off in the distance. I usually use a star, just something that I can see and I can know that that's the spot I'm looking at, either in the cockpit or in third person. Something really bright. It needs to be bigger than a planet. It needs to be like a single point. Make sure that your cockpit is looking right at that spot. So that way you know like you would travel straight to that star. From there, go into third person, push your camera all the way through your ship so that way you're through the nose, or you can kind of go down, whatever like that. Basically, try to move the camera as far forward as it can and then look at that very same star. Basically, the point of this is so that way you can be flying in third person, but you know what direction is forward for your ship. So that way you can safely navigate around like whatever. Um, and then by using that, you can then from that one position zoom all the way in, maximum zoom, save that location too on your numpad. So basically now you have a zoom in, zoom out setting, and you can use this for whatever. In this case, we were practicing A2 bombing run. And so on this angle, it looks super far away. There is a reclaimer right there somewhere. But this is what the game looks like, basically maximum zoomed out, pretty damn high. At some point, we're going to have the A2 come in, and at the push of a button, bam, you can zoom all the way in. And it's a fun little tool to have. I know it's very simple, but it's worth going over. You can save these multiple different angles, and you can use them creatively, basically however you can think of. One of the ways I like to use is this rapid zoom. One, cool. Depth of field. Everyone loves this when it comes to actual photography, like getting that fancy, tasteful blur in the background. It's called depth of field. The blur is called bokeh, however you want to pronounce it. And this game lets you do either like a lot or a little, which is really cool. So it's important to find a tasteful amount. So in this photo I took of IAE, what is that, last year? Damn. Um, Obviously I'm in focus, the sign is blurred, but not so much so that you can't read what it says. That's the thing is I wanted you to know where and when this photo was taken. So leave that info somewhat kind of in the background. Um, and then yeah, you use the depth of field by F4 and the home or end key. Um, and yeah, very important tool. You can, the blur is basically just to make your subject stand out. Again, we covered that with the depth or figure to ground rule. Is basically if everything else is blurry, your eye's not going to care. You want to look at the sharp subject. So that's one thing you're able to do with this one. However, you can get it down to a very fine, narrow area that is actually in focus. And this one I actually missed. I was trying to go for the nine tail logo, and I'm not on that. My focal point is actually on his shoulder pad. But even on this player, his shoulder pad to his knee, you cannot see his knee. That is not a very vast distance in space and time to travel. And yet the knee is completely out of focus. So you can dial this down pretty extreme, but then you also need to make sure that your focal point is actually on the correct point that you want. So like I said, on this one I missed. It's kind of like obvious. Um, so yeah, you got to make sure you're really like spot on with it. Because this is a video game though, because it's not an actual lens, it's not actual light going through glass, the game can kind of freak out. So for this one, you can see that there's this very sudden sharp edge out of freaking nowhere. In an actual camera, that would never happen. the lights here are actually pixelated as they explode out. That doesn't really kind of happen as much, at least not with these dots of light. It's a video game. It's not all going to be perfect. So bear in mind, if you're trying to use the maximum blur, there might be a penalty with that. So just basically make sure you're not only looking at your subject, but you look at the entire photo when you're taking the picture to make sure that everything looks right. Nothing's too absurd. No, this doesn't work anymore. I just checked. But going back to it being a video game, last IAE with the holograms, you could max out your blur, and yet for some reason the model of the ships would stay perfectly in focus. So using this to my advantage, I was able to take all these awesome photos of the ship with the backgrounds blurred out, doesn't matter. The ship itself is in perfect focus. You normally could never do this because everything would be blurred except for a single point. So again, video game kind of, cheat the rules a little bit, see what you can get. And I tried it tried it yesterday. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. It sucks. But yeah. Reshade. Okay, so I'm sure most of you guys, if you're interested in photos, you've heard about Reshade. I personally do not use it that much. In fact, I haven't had it installed in so long. It was a fun little tool to use, but for me personally, with my workflow, I like to edit the photos after I take them. That's actually very counterintuitive to what you're supposed to do in the actual film world, where you try to make sure that everything looks good in camera and you don't fix it in post afterward. But basically, what Reshade is, for those of you who don't know, a bunch of different, think of them like filters that you can add on and you can adjust stuff. You can adjust color, shadow, you can do whatever. And you can go extreme as creating night vision and thermal vision, as some people found out not too long ago. And just like the camera viewpoints, you can save these profiles and you can switch them with like the press of a button, which was pretty damn cool. So for this photo, this is the stock one. And this is with Reshade on. I can make it a little more darker, a little more moody. I can increase the shadows. It gives you ever more control in game, in camera. That way you don't have to fix it in post afterward. Depending on how it is you like to take photos, how you like to work, this might be something that appeals to you. For me personally, it didn't. Having to stay on top of keeping Reshade updated, and then it was bugging out with anti-cheat for a while. It wasn't worth it to me. I stopped using it. So our Reshade king is absolutely undeniably Ham Sandwich. Unfortunately, is not around too much. He is still in this Discord, but he's not around too much. But that guy was amazing with it. He could do so much like stuff with it. His photos were always selected for newsletter stuff. He had it really spot on, and he was really cool about actually downloading his profiles and uploading it to the Discord, so anyone could actually use his secret sauce, as he called it, and take photos that look just like his. It's still totally up to you guys to frame the photos, to find a subject, blah 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 blah, everything we just covered. But with all these additional settings, it was really cool that he was able to share those, or the fact that they can be manipulated in the first place. But again, I don't use it all that much. You'd have to go to Ham Sandwich for it, or anyone else that might be using it more often. This was another example somebody else took in the org where they had just the original photo and then the reshade photo. And then, like I said, I like doing it afterwards. I use Photoshop so you can kind of see what results. I was not aiming for the same. I was aiming in Photoshop for what I thought the picture would look good. And then looking at the reshade and then the original, I don't know why, but the original game, everything is so gray. It's so desaturated. It's all like hazy. Don't know why. Absolutely hate that. And actually, I've gotten around that by just tweaking my default game setting. I leave brightness and gamma alone, and then contrast, crank that up to 75 or 100, depending on what it is I'm doing. And just by using the in-game controls, I'm able to get a lot more like darker but colorful pictures too. And I've been happy enough with that going on. But you can kind of see, like, depending on how it is you want to work, you can do whatever you want. You can adjust the original stuff in game, you can reshade, you can use Photoshop. Basically, different ways of looking at the same photo with different tools. Totally depends on how you like to work. Photoshop, again, really powerful tool, especially if you kind of know it and more advanced stuff. I know it's also probably expensive, but quick little example. I wanted to take a photo of the A2 just like this with an explosion happening underneath that was like bigger than the ship, that the fireball was like spreading everywhere. Problem is, in order to get that shot, your A2 had to be within detonation range of the Moab, and I could never get the shot I wanted. So I said, screw this, I'm going to use Photoshop. So took a bunch of different pictures and layered them on top. So this is my A2. I then took screenshot from an explosion from dropping the Moab. And then basically by layering them on top of one another and like kind of just messing with light levels and like light fall off, blah, 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 you're able to get some pretty epic looking photos, which is total bullshit. Because you guys saw the original. This is the Photoshop. You can also see that did I crop it down on this one? I did. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the 32:9 aspect ratio, and it's way too goddamn wide. So eventually I crop in a little bit. This looks like 21 by just so the picture looks a little bit better. I got what I wanted of the fireball spreading out all around the ship. I even have the ship all lit up, got the watermark, everything. And that kind of shows the power of Photoshop. If you have a specific vision, you can do it. If you're willing to put in the work, doing the layers, all that stuff. But again, it's a really fun tool. I am not going to teach you Photoshop, but sort of just showing you what kind of a tool it is if you guys were ever interested in any sort of post-production work like that. It's what I do for a living, so I enjoy it. I totally understand if everyone else says hell the fuck no, but just wanted to show a real cool example, real world example of like things Photoshop can. I really like that picture. It's totally fake. Dolly zoom. I just added this slide like an hour ago, so pardon it for being so crude, but it's also a really effective tool. I used it, I taught it last class. Everyone loved it and everyone started doing it with their photos, so I figured this needs to be part of it. If you guys have ever seen the movie Jaws or Vertigo or whatever like that, the effect of like when a character looks over like the cliff or looks over the side of the building and like the whole world warps in and out, and you're just like, holy shit, like my eyes, the vertigo effect. That's called a dolly zoom. And basically what it is your camera starts off, position Star Citizen, over the shoulder camera, standard stuff, you're in front. The camera can see a wide area by default. So what you do in a dolly zoom is you actually zoom the camera in so that way you have a narrow view you're actually looking. But because you're zoomed in, you have to move the camera backwards so that way your subjects will still kind of look the same size. And by doing that, you actually get two drastically looking pictures. You compress the image. When they told me that, I absolutely hated that. So I needed examples. So here's ones that I took today. This is the jump point to pyro. Don't worry about the framing, whatever like that. That was not the point. All I wanted to do was to demonstrate this. But basically, you have your ship right here. You have this spire right here. And this is the default view. This is just F4 and move the camera a little bit. By doing the dolly zoom, zooming all the way in and then pushing the camera way the hell back, you're able to bring the station so much closer. It looks like I flew the ship closer, but I did not. I brought the station closer. However, not only did it compress space, it also compressed the ship. So you'll see that it also brought the nose way closer to the back. So you got to take the good with the bad. Unless you're showing people, camera one, camera two, they are not going to really notice it. But you could use this tool as a way to mess with the background to bring stuff in closer. Another example that I did, took this with my Tonk. I didn't like how the city seemed so far away. So by using that same tool, I'm able to bring the city closer, even though the tank is basically in the exact same spot. So fun little tool. You can use this actually very creatively, not only to bring the background in, but if you want your ship to look bigger when you're standing on the ground, like doing the thumbs up, whatever like that, you can use this tool. Or if you're taking a group photo with, everyone on the rooftop, whatever like that, you can bring the city in closer. You don't have all this dead space of just random sky, which isn't doing anything for your photo. Bring in the background, cut that out, and the photo just seems a lot more dynamic, a lot more alive. There's not just dead stuff, boring ice here, sky here. It's an interesting little tool. I definitely recommend using it. I almost do this on basically all my photos, just because I want some control over the background because we have the option of having that control. So the actual dolly zoom effect itself, the game doesn't really let you do that too much when you're taking video because you zoom in and you do camera movement kind of like in chunk. It's not really a smooth motion ish. So for video, it doesn't work, but for photos, it absolutely does. You can press the background, bring it in closer, and it's a really cool effect. I definitely highly recommend you guys practicing with that because that'll be one of the tools that you use every photo you take. It's like that good. Damn. All right. How we
Also,
doing on
what I did
time?
notice with when you
Yep.
did that photo, if you look at the IAE logo in the
Yep.
corner, and you can
Yeah.
go into the other one. It zooms
So the
right
top
in.
one had blur on. Yeah. I ended up removing the blur for this one. Like normally that doesn't happen. That was a yeah, I know. I saw that when I was doing this photo too. I didn't think anyone would notice. So I'm throwing that. So ignore the blur. That was not part of it. That's an effect. Going back to the blur, like I said, one of the things that you can do is actually go maximum blur, move your camera so that way your focal point is on your subject, and then unblur. So that way, no matter what, you know that the exact crisp dead center of focus is on your subject because that's basically where you left it. And you're right, Moonded. That's another one I saw, but I didn't know if anyone had seen that. So
Yeah,
um,
I was looking for other stuff that might everyone seen and showed it actually here, but I can't even stream my screen, so
yep. Oh,
we
right.
left the channel.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so he was just looking up examples of dolly zoom. You can see them all over like YouTube. You can do like YouTube Shorts and people do that. It's a really cool effect. It's actually very hard to do perfectly because actual Hollywood will put the camera on railroad track, like a dolly is what it's called, because it needs to be perfectly smooth and the focus, all of it, it needs to be done perfectly in order for it to look good. So it's a hard thing to do. So as long as you're not doing video, you can still use point A, point B for photography and get the effect. And that's basically what we're covering. Basically, yeah, bringing the background in closer. Really good tool. Highly recommend. And so, yeah, bonus for those of you who don't know, which I think everyone here probably does by now, we have the missile camera in game, which very kind of hard to do for photography because it happens so quick, but it is a fun little camera tip tool. And yes, it also works for bombs as well. And then, yeah, again, for those of you who don't know, we're going to go over how to keybind this. But basically, even though you're in bomb camera, you're still in complete control of your ship. So make sure you don't just totally slack off on flying. And this one, I thought it was too close. So I'm like, I better nose up and get the hell out of the blast radius. But you can still control the bomb with Z, spin the camera around. Woo! Big explosion. So yeah, bomb missile camera. For those of you who don't know, game settings, you got to turn on your cinematic camera. I can go over this if nobody doesn't know how to do this. We can go over it when we all game. But key bindings, advanced key controls, vehicle and missiles. And at the very bottom of that, personally, I always choose F3 and on toggle. Mostly for two reasons. One, F3, by default, it has no keybind. There's nothing on it. And it's right next to F4, which is your master camera button. So it just seems the most sense to keep it right there. And it's really awesome tool just to have, bomb camera, especially because you can kind of follow it down. Really good tools. You can get some really awesome shots with it. So yeah, definitely recommend key binding. And with that, the classroom portion is over. Yeah, this has been Friday Photography by your lordship. So, whew, there's a lot of talking for only 47 minutes. How's everyone doing? Questions, comments?
Doing good.
Riveting.
Following. Yep.
Hell yeah. All right. Entertaining, I hope, at least.
I forgot about the blur
definitely.
function, so I've been screwing around with that for the past 10 minutes.
Fuck yeah. So actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So go ahead, everyone, just start launching in game. We don't even need to be in a party. Just hop in game, start taking photos. I might lock this channel. You know what? Screw it. Let's go ahead and bombard media gallery because that's exactly what this is for. How are we all looking?
So how do you
Yep.
keybind cinematic camera?
The bomb camera?
The cinematic camera that you had keybound
Oh,
with the
so-
F3.
Oh, it's an option.
I'm in options and the key bindings.
Say advanced control customization, vehicle missiles,
Vehicle missiles.
and then yeah, at the very bottom of that tab, enable cinematic camera toggle. You can do hold, but I prefer toggle just because I like keeping my hands off of it. That way I can adjust the camera as needed. But definitely a fun little tool to use. All right, but yeah, so for this next little bit, everyone go ahead, hop in game, and let's go ahead, just start taking some screenshots and then upload them to media